Thank you so much for joining me again today. We're now going to learn how to shade in our whale shark that we just learned how to draw in our last lesson. All you'll need is a number 2 pencil, just a normal pencil like this, and an eraser, and you're all set to go. So let's hop in and let's start shading. Jumping right back into our whale shark here, we're going to start with this far left side of our face, and we're going to work our way down the body. So because all of our spots are actually white, we're going to be first filling in the idea of color using our pencil here. And so we're not going to be too heavy. We're just very lightly, very, very, very lightly filling in all of these areas around our patterns. And that's really just to help define them a bit more. And then as we do this first, and then we'll go in and add in our shadows and shading, creating more form. So you see it's already going to start really bringing to life our gorgeous little whale shark. And again, we're just using a number 2 pencil for this entire lesson on shading. And just keep in mind, if you have a whole pack of graphites that go all the way up to 6B, 9B, that kind of thing, you are more than welcome to be using them for this, but just make sure that you do as we're doing, which is starting with your lightest and working to your darkest. So you can do this and learn this completely with just a number 2 pencil, an HB pencil, as what it's called in a set. And this will help you really start to learn how to handle these pencils and how to approach drawing anything. So this is about the time that you definitely want to have on a nice song that gets you energized or helps you to stay focused, because it's going to take a little bit of patience to make your way through this area in particular. But something we can go ahead and darken up is our mouth right here that we've already kind of filled in. So just go ahead and darken that with one more shade. And then where you see the little mouth right here, gonna add a bit of shading at that crease. And then also going to shade just on the very, very, very bottom of our cheek and underneath the eye. Just like that. And then see where we have our gills over here. We're going to make sure we shade on the right side of our gills, because that's actually where they're casting a shadow onto the rest of its body. So just a slight little area that you're going to softly shade in. And it doesn't matter if you're going over the patterns, guys. You're actually going to want to go over the patterns whenever you're doing any full body shading. I really find drawing to be very meditative. So if you ever are feeling a little stressed out or you need something to relax, get your mind off something else, I really find it a great way to get your mind off any kind of like negative thoughts, or sometimes if you need space to think about an idea or another project, I like to actually really think about things when I'm drawing, Once you get a hang of it, of course. Like first you really need to pay attention to what you're doing and think about it. But once you get these techniques down, you're going to be sailing smoothly and you're going to be able to think about all kinds of things while you're actually creating. So here we're going to actually shade in over our patterns a little bit right there. And I'm actually going to go ahead and start shading in the rest of the body a little bit more just to show you how everything's going to look. So you're going to want to shade in around your lateral line, just like that. And then you maybe won't fully shade in all the way on the very tippy top of your whale shark because it's going to be a highlight. Of course, we can go back in later with our eraser and make those highlights defined, but it's good to still leave some pure white space when you know you want to keep a highlight somewhere. It keeps it really nice and clean. And so just like that. So you see how we're leaving a few spaces, just pure white. You're also going to want to leave some pure white on the cheek, especially like the upper cheek, like where we just did this. So this shading line we just did where our gills are, just right below that, we want to keep that very bright because that's going to actually be where the light would be catching on our gills. We do want to shade in the very, very, very bottom a bit more though. Excellent. All right, with that in, let's go ahead and hop up here to our dorsal fin really fast and do an initial shading in process right here. So as you're at the bottom of your dorsal fin, you're going to obviously want to have that a bit darker than the upper portion because obviously it's closer to the body and cast more in shadow, more heavily in shadow than the upper portion. Just like that, but I would leave a little bit of the ridge right here unshaded. Again, we're going to go in and we're going to fill in around these patterns. Just a little bit. Because remember, these lines right here are actually ridges, whereas this one is more inset on the body. And now around where our pectoral fin is, we're going to darken up this area quite a bit. But remember, start with your lights and then work to your darks. Very softly, build and build. It's the way to do it. Slowly but surely, I promise you, you will create a beautiful, soft move from a dark to a light and back. And keep in mind when we're going to be going around this area that they have this nice big old belly. So we want to definitely leave some pure white area in here because that belly would be highlighted. And of course, right below the pelvic fin will be a little bit of a shadow on both sides, all the way back to the back of the tail. just like that. And we're gonna go ahead and fill in bottom of our caudal fin underneath right here. And then of course, up the tail a little bit. Just like that. I'm going to fill in a little bit on the secondary dorsal fin. And then along this upper ridge area, just around the patterns a little bit. Also going to fill in this central area, like around your circles and such, with a little bit of shading as well. See, I'm just kind of doing these little squiggly, scratchy scratches, this kind of shading. I'm really just going with one movement. So I'm picking a diagonal and I'm sticking with it, going down the entire body. And this just creates a lot more uniformity whenever you follow this same kind of like movement throughout this entire piece. Of course, as you build on your colors, you can shift and push these things around to where you don't even really see necessarily the direction in which they were originally going. Even that out a bit. Lovely. And so then we're going to add just a little bit of a shadow into this guy. And then of course, in our pectoral fin, we'll definitely have a shadow. And that shadow will definitely be concentrated on the front portion of the fin. Just like so. And then just fill around your patterns in the rest of the fin, except for on the very edge over here. Lovely, lovely. So this is your first round right here, already done. So now you're going to jump right back in with your next round where it's going to be much darker. And then you're just going to layer on top of the shading that you currently have. Just with a little bit heavier of a hand, but still being very precise, especially in these little areas. So I concentrate this darkness towards around the mouth, and of course around points on the dorsal fin and the pectoral fin, and a few other key areas I'm about to show you. So I'm just trying to darken up some of these areas that really we want to define and like have be your focal points. And that's just really going to make these areas pop, is having that bit of extra darkness right there. And of course, we're going to do it in this area on the ridge with a lateral line. Which goes down the entire body. Going to kind of pull that darker shade out here into the rest of the head. Just going to darken up around the gills. And then think along our cheek right here. Gonna make that a lot darker. Base of our dorsal fin. Just darkening up a little bit more around that lateral line. And then of course right here below this ridge, which is also going to go over the patterns. Patterns get kind of drawn over right here as well. I want to define and really fill in that back caudal fin. And then darken up that fin just a little bit, not as dark as your caudal fin because you don't want it to disappear. Shade in around there as well. And really shade in the bottom of that. And then also in the upper portion of the caudal fin in this area as well. And now you have this basic idea of how this is all going to go. You're going to come back in here and start adding in some more darks in and around the face and just a few areas. Mostly connecting that ridge or that lateral line on the back, down the middle of the face. Just using some more darks like so. Like that. And again, this is all just a layering process, my friends. So just have lots of patience with yourself here as you just very meticulously and calmly fill in all of these little spots. But as you're darkening them, again, you don't want to just go into it with an extremely heavy hand. You want to do it layer after layer, building on that shading. And the more crisp and more filled in you can get the spaces between the markings, the more the markings will show up, which will look really, really nice when you're all done. And again, here, all we're doing is just meticulously filling in our whale shark. I'm gonna come up here and fill in some of this area a little bit more. And we're also going to darken up this edge right here. And press even a little heavier in here to really define that curve, so it doesn't get flattened out as we make that curve with these lines. So you see how doing this building upon process really makes the difference. Just like that. Darken up around here. This is going to be casting a little bit of a shadow because the dorsal fin is there. And then we're just kind of darkening up the area of the pectoral fin as it's closer to the body because it's more cast in shadow. And then it fades out as it goes down the fin, except for obviously on the edge where that's cast in complete shadow. And then again, we're gonna go along this main lateral line and blendy, blendy, blendy. A bit more dark. Just like so. And now we're actually going to fill up the cheek a bit more with our shading just because it looks a little bit odd with this portion down here not shaded in. And this is kind of a balancing act. This is what you will learn as you develop your own drawings and test new ideas and things like that. You'll start to see like, something just like doesn't make sense. And so that's when you just have to push and pull and really play with the materials that you have in order to get the desired effect that you would like. Like in this case, I'm thinking that this white strip up here just isn't really functioning very well with this drawing. So we're gonna go ahead and fill in that very upper portion a bit more. And we're gonna do that all the way down the body. And just so you guys know, all of these transitions, again, all the shading that we're doing here is all being done with the exact same pencil. But whenever you start to work with darker pencils, heavier pencils, you'll really start to get this push on these darks and it'll really pop a lot more. But you can learn everything that you need to using this very simple material. So I recommend practicing with this, and then as you develop, buy a couple extra pencils like a 4B and a 6B, and then really start playing with those materials a lot more. And let's see, let's add just like maybe a little squiggly striations right there. Maybe a couple coming from the edge of the dorsal fin right here. And a couple right here as well. And I think that is going to be it for our whale shark. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed learning how to shade in your little whale shark that we learned how to draw in our first lesson. If you enjoyed this class, please hit that subscribe button and follow us every week for new drawings and paintings. And please, we would love to see your work, so share it with us using the hashtag #OfTheWild on @PaintForTheWild on social media like Instagram and Facebook. If you had any questions about our class, just comment below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Until we see you again, stay safe, stay positive, and keep creating. See you later.